COVID-19 handlebar mustache for me. I pretty much shave every day, but I couldn't grow a beard if my life depended on it. But I went like 4 or 5 days and I was looking like I didn't know who I was, so I had to shave again.
Well, the mustache, this is probably the best one I've ever had in my life. And I tried doing the beard, but it was nothing but prickly gray, so I got rid of that.
Well, I heard Sheriff Rick Scott's looking to hire you.
With the handlebars?
Yeah.
What's wrong with gray?
Well, it was too scratchy for one.
Hello, Chief Myers.
Is that a mustache, Brian, or did something spill on your lip?
Yeah.
Caterpillar.
I look like a cop.
Ooh. I will say that actually looks pretty good. I think you should keep it.
Tom Selleck. That's what I'm going for.
I like it. I like it. Mr.
Okay,
Grun,
it's 7 o'clock.
Mr. Grun, you're shaking up and down. Whoa.
Okay, here
Uh-oh.
we go.
You're making us seasick there for a minute.
Lisa.
All right, it's 7 o'clock. Let me make sure. Okay, we don't have any of our council members in the attendees list, so it looks like this is what we have.
Right, so if any council member comes in later, you'll announce that.
I'll let you know.
Okay, well,
How many attendees? How many attendees are there outside of the panel?
I can't hear Stephen very well.
I think that's just how he has it set up.
Okay.
My dad will be here.
okay, I think everybody's done a radio check. So if you would mute yourselves unless you're supposed to be talking, that'll help with some of the background noise. I know I also tend to type on my other computer while I'm on these, and so I'll try to do the same. But I'd like to call the meeting to order.
Oh, hold on. Sorry, there you go. We're good. Now, okay, we are officially recording.
Okay, recording. So I'd like to call the meeting to order and thank the council members and public for being patient with us as we host our first kind of COVID-19 virtual meeting. This is the evening of April 13th, 2020. And I would like to start the meeting by first asking, and I would appreciate it if Dave Wilson would lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. This is going to be a little bit of challenging, but if Corey could turn her screen to the flag and Mr. Wilson would lead us, I'd appreciate it. But don't drop your computer, stand it up.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America.
America. The republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'm not sure how that worked, but I do appreciate the effort. And right off the bat, I forgot to mute myself as I stepped away, so sorry about that. Thank you, Dave. And Corey, could you do roll call before we get moving any further?
Yes. Okay, McMillan, or I'm sorry, I jumped over the Mayor Winkleman. You're here. McMillan, here.
Here.
Nelson,
Here.
Patterson, here. Vogel,
Here.
here. Reed,
Here.
Wilson,
Here.
Anderson is not here. Carlstrom,
Here.
Aldick,
Here.
George is not here. Grun,
Here.
Henshin.
Here.
Okay.
Okay, seems we have a quorum, so I'd like to move on. I know this, some of the things that were changed on the agenda, we removed the any correspondence from the beginning, and I'm not sure if Corey, if you have any other correspondence or something that we should cover before we move on, or no?
Yes, okay, so first off, we need to have the public hearings, but when we have the public hearings for the attendees or the public that's watching, what I'll need, I believe that you have a raise your hand button on the bottom. And if you do that, raise your hand. If you do not, if you do raise your hand or don't raise your hand, there is a webinar Zoom chat. Type your comments in relation to the public hearing then or there, and I have access to that, so I will make sure that I will read them off to the council members. When it comes to the rest of the agenda, rather than having the entire council say aye or nay, we will be doing a roll call vote. It's a lot easier that way, just because when one person says aye, it's only going to grab one versus everybody. So we can't hear if it's a quorum voting or not. So just be patient, and if you have an issue, I mean, you can wave in your screen and I can see you if you need to get my attention or whatnot.
Okay, thank you. So we should all go back to mute. By the way, I think for those of us on a laptop, you have a, you can hit the space bar and that will put you back on mute. All right, some of you are alone anyway and plenty quiet, so. I did have some communication through an email, but I'll bring that up later under mayor's reports. So I believe we were going to go with the public hearings that are scheduled on the agenda. First one is regarding the park plan. And I see Paul McMillan's got a question.
No, I just want to move to open the park plan public hearing.
Mr. Nelson?
Support.
Okay, so there's a motion and support to open the public hearing regarding park plan. All those in favor, we're going to do this by roll call. Corey,
Yes.
go through the vote, please.
Okay. McMillan,
Aye.
Nelson,
Aye.
Patterson,
Aye.
Pavogel,
Yes.
Reed,
Aye.
Wilson,
Aye.
Carlstrom,
Aye.
Dick,
Aye.
Grun,
Aye.
Henshin.
Aye.
Awesome. We have a
Motion
quorum.
carries, so the public hearing's open.
We have-
All right, and if you can you hear me, Corey?
Yes, Brian.
Okay, so just to kind of open up the reason we're having the public hearing on the park plan. Cities are not required to have a park plan per se, but if you do want to apply for specific state funding, you do have to have a adopted park plan, and they require that you adopt it every 6 to 7 years. Tracy and I have been working with the Grace Harbor Council of Governments to update our park plan, and really the key part of the park plan is on page 37, which is the capital improvement section. And that's where we list projects that we think that we would want to apply for grant funding for. So what's listed in there is the Olympic Stadium renovations that we're working on, improvements to the Andreessen boat launch, more improvements out of Gable Park, like paving, viewing area improvements. Something new that we added was a new covered athletic facility, kind of like you see in a lot of communities where kids can practice indoors year round. Renovations to Big Alasky Park, renovations to Ritchie Park, a dog park, a BMX track, Delta Park, which is the Eldon Bargewell Park, yet to be determined, but we put that in there as a placeholder. And then also more timber acquisition on Beacon Hill, and trails in the property that we just acquired in Beacon Hill are all listed as potential capital projects that we'd like to apply for funding. What we're currently seriously considering at this point in time is applying to the Washington State Recreation and Conservation Office for funding. Applications are due at the beginning of June, and we'd like to go for funding for Olympic Stadium to continue the renovations there, because they're going to be a lot more money than we anticipated a year ago. And that's kind of the park plan in a nutshell. We can amend the park plan at any point in time. New idea comes up, something we want to add, we can always add it in. But the key is we had to have an up-to-date park plan before the grant deadline this June.
Corey, ordinarily at the public hearing, I think you give us kind of an outline of rules before we get started. Is that something that we need to do, or is applicable in this virtual meeting?
That's only if we're adopting, sorry, Trace.
That's only if we're like adopting a law, like a vacation or something like that, then we do the fair hearing doctrine. So.
Okay.
That
Yeah, it wouldn't apply to this situation.
All right, thank you, Steve. Is there anybody indicating that they wish to be heard? And if so, they'll need to make that indication in the comments or by using the raised hand icon to Corey so that she can call on them. And if there's any, they'll be asked to state their name and address for the record.
Yes, I don't see, let's just give it a second, but I don't see any attendees asking any questions.
Mr. McMillan's got one.
Not a question. If no one has a question, I move that we close the public hearing.
Yeah, nothing's coming through.
Okay, is there a second to Mr. McMillan's motion? Mr. Nelson?
Second.
Support.
Okay, there's motion and support to close the public hearing regarding the park plan. Corey, would you please take a vote?
Yes. McMillan,
Aye.
Nelson,
Aye.
Patterson,
Aye.
Vogel,
Yes.
Reed,
Aye.
Wilson,
Aye.
Carlstrom,
Aye.
Dick,
Aye.
Grun,
Aye.
Hinchin.
Aye.
Awesome.
Okay, so thank you for participating in the public hearing, a first time in city council history during a virtual meeting. So that was pretty interesting. Good job, you guys. Let's move on to there's another public hearing listed on our agenda for tonight is the Community Development Block Grant. Is there a motion regarding that public hearing?
So moved.
Okay, there's a motion and a second by raising hand from Mr. Nelson and a couple of others.
Second.
All right, if you could call to open the public hearing, please.
McMillan,
Aye.
Nelson,
Aye.
Patterson,
Aye.
Vogel,
Yes.
Reed,
Aye.
Wilson,
Aye.
Carlstrom,
Aye.
Dick,
Aye.
Grun,
Aye.
Hinchin.
Aye.
Majority.
Okay, so that opens the public comment on the Community Development Block Grant. Mr. Shea, are you going to give us the information on this as well?
So Tracy published a formal notice regarding this public hearing that we're required to do by the Department of Commerce. If you want to apply for a Department of Commerce Community Development Block Grant, you're required to have this public hearing before you submit an application. And their applications are due in the beginning of June also. Their projects are intended to be beneficial to low to moderate income citizens primarily. Our city qualifies as a whole, so any project we are to do meets their guidelines. I've been working with CDBG looking at potential projects that might have the best shot at funding, and they really believe that the structural repairs that we need to do at Olympic Stadium are a really good fit. They really like that project. And so if the council ultimately agrees, after taking feedback tonight on potential projects or a project, we would apply to Commerce to repair the siding, the paint the building, other structural repairs, and anything that's needed on the facility itself. They probably would not fund field turf at all, but they would do anything related to the structure. And that could include, restrooms, and which certainly could use a lot of work as well. So the point of this hearing is to gather any feedback on anyone related to our intent to apply for a community development block grant.
Sorry,
No, you're good. I was watching to see if you're going to unmute. Do any of the attendees have any questions? And if you do, please either raise your hand and or address them in the Zoom webinar chat, please.
If there's none, then the council has the same opportunity, of course.
Correct. And I'm not seeing anything.
There's also the Q&A option. That they have to, but it would pop up the same. I don't think you have it. I don't think you have it.
No, there are no asked questions. I'm keeping an eye on that as well. So I think, so Mayor, we're good. There's no comments from the public.
Is there a motion to close the public hearing?
I move to close it.
Okay, there's a motion and support to close the public hearing. All those in favor respond to Corey's request.
McMillan,
Aye.
Nelson,
Aye.
Patterson,
Aye.
Pavogel,
Yes.
Reed,
Aye.
Wilson,
Aye.
Carlstrom,
Aye.
Dick,
Aye.
Grun,
Aye.
Henshin.
Aye.
Okay. We are good to go.
All right, thank you. So the public hearing is closed. It's going to take a little bit longer to get through these, but we're doing okay so far. Ordinarily on our agenda is a public comment period at this point, and I think it'd be appropriate for us to, by motion, remove that from the agenda. Is there a motion regarding that topic?
So moved.
Support.
Okay, there's a motion and support to remove the public comment period from the agenda tonight. And I might suggest a friendly amendment to the motion to include future, maybe to include future meetings that are held in this fashion. Maybe we'll find out a way to do that, but.
So I would like to, if we're in discussion on this, I'm not going to actually vote no on this. I think we do have the opportunity to take public comment. I can see that we all just received a message highlighting how great Brian's mustache is. So I certainly think we have the ability to take public comment via this method.
Okay, and so I'm not sure, Corey, if we have the ability to take public comment by video or audio, but we do at least by chat. Is that true?
We do, but the problem with that is that it's not recorded. That piece is not recorded. So, and Tracy needs to document that for the minutes.
Okay. Well, I guess then I would support it in the short term, but I will not support it for future meetings for the sake that we need to have a way that people can comment. Although I would suggest that if you do have comment to make, to email your council members at cityofhoquiam.com.
Yeah.
I will say that, for instance, I know that it was Kyle Polly that just wrote that about Brian, but using him as an example in his city, the city of Cosmopolis, I think, has issued a publication just stating that if you want to do a public comment, then you must submit it to the city within within 48 hours of the council meeting.
For sure. Yeah, there's got to be a solution. So
yeah, and then we could just read them aloud.
Yeah.
Okay. So there was a motion and a second to remove the public comment period for this meeting, and I didn't hear an amendment. So if we could, I'll call for the vote on that motion.
Okay, McMillan,
Aye.
Nelson,
Aye.
Patterson,
Aye.
Pavogel,
Yes.
Reed,
Aye.
Wilson,
Aye.
Carlstrom,
Aye.
Dick,
Aye.
Grun,
Aye.
Henson.
Aye.
Can we mute if we're not
Yes,
speaking?
please.
Getting a lot of background noise.
Let us know if you're not sure how to mute yourself.
Was that motion carried to remove?
That motion carried. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So there are some issues on the consent agenda. Is there a motion regarding the consent agenda? Come on, Mr. Grun, that's you.
Oh, yeah, I'll move to approve the consent agenda. How many items? Items
A through C.
A to C.
A through C?
Yeah. See, some things can stay the same. Is there a
Mhm.
second?
Second.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor, please respond to Corey's request.
Is there opportunity for discussion on that? Or is that not allowed?
Yes.
You can have discussion on the consent agenda.
I do have a thing on the consent agenda.
Okay.
So Brian, is the library done?
So the work by our contractor is done.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. McMillan, got your hand raised.
Yes, I just want to make sure that the doors and the elevator work fine there, Brian.
Yes, the elevator, I mean, the vast work that needs to be done on the elevator was not included in the project. So that is something we are hoping to apply for to completely replace. We have a quote on what that will cost, and Timberland Regional Library is considering putting in a Commerce grant to do work at like 6 libraries, and they would include our elevator as part of that project.
Okay, any other questions or comments on the motion to accept the consent agenda? Okay, hearing none, if you could respond to Corey's request on the vote.
McMillan,
Aye.
Nelson,
Aye.
Patterson,
Aye.
Pavogel,
Yes.
Reed,
Aye.
Wilson,
Aye.
Carlstrom,
Aye.
Dick,
Aye.
Grun,
Aye.
Henson.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you, Corey. Next on the agenda is council action or discussion regarding committee reports. We have a couple of committee reports in the agenda. Is there a motion?
I make a motion on reports, committee reports.
Okay, well, so the Public Utilities Committee, is that? Did I skip? Oh, I skipped it. Sorry, this is two-sided. We're saving paper. Okay, we, your Public Utilities Committee, recommend adopting an ordinance to put a ballot measure before the voters to create a transportation benefit district.
I make a motion.
Regarding the adoption of the Public Utilities Committee report. Is there any discussion? Mr. McMillan?
With many people out of work, now is not the time to put something on a ballot. We need this, and I highly recommend it in the future, but not at this time.
What ballot would it be on? September?
It's whatever ballot you would request it to be on, whatever ballot the council would want it on.
Is there
I would
any
have to
other
agree.
comment or discussion? If you could wait to be called on, I think it will make it easier for the record. Mr. Wilson?
Yeah, I would just have to agree with Mr. McMillan on his comment.
Okay, is there any other, Mr. Dick, are you raising your hand there?
Yeah, I agree with those two. With bad timing on our part, I think probably wouldn't have much of a chance, I wouldn't think.
Okay. Yes, Mr. Bivokal.
Yeah, so I think when this committee report was filed and signed, it made perfect sense. And I'm hopeful that if we choose not to go forward with this tonight, that does not mean that we can't bring it back up again soon when we have a little bit more clarity. So I'd much rather come back in a month that we have a better feel of where we're at, or a few months, than to just try to jam this through right now. So I'm sadly going to vote no tonight.
Okay, is there any other comment on this motion?
Elizabeth.
Could we make a motion to just table it?
Well, I think we could make that motion. I think you could also accept the committee report, and then actually forming the benefit district would happen at a different time. Am I correct about that, Brian or Steve?
Well, we would have to adopt an ordinance putting it on the ballot. So until we take action to actually formally adopt the ordinance to then create the ballot measure, it wouldn't move forward. So I mean, you could adopt the committee report and basically just sit and wait and adopt the ordinance when you are ready to move forward.
All right, is there any other discussion on this motion? Mr. Bivokal?
Yeah, I was gonna say, in light of that, I actually will vote yes to accept the report, just knowing that I'm not ready to turn around and adopt the ordinance right away.
I think Al's maybe got his hand raised.
That's a big hand.
Al, were you trying to be
No,
recognized?
I was just in my
Okay.
screen.
Elizabeth Reed.
Okay, I wasn't aware before we had talked at another meeting at what a transportation benefit district was. Perhaps if we're going to table this for future ordinance creation, we could take this opportunity to educate the public on what a transportation benefit district is. If this appeared on a ballot, I don't necessarily think that most of the voters would know what that was. So perhaps if we're going to wait on this for a month or more, we could take this opportunity to educate the public on what a transportation benefit district is, so that they're more informed when it comes time to vote.
Okay, if there's no other comment or discussion, this motion is simply to adopt the Public Utilities Committee report, and it would be by a separate motion that it would be put on a ballot. To my understanding, the report doesn't suggest any particular ballot. So is there any other discussion on the motion? Okay, hearing none, I'm sorry, Ms. Patterson.
So I just want to clarify, we're about to vote to adopt the committee report or not, but voting to adopt, I just want to make sure we're clear, but voting to adopt that committee report doesn't bind us to moving forward to create a transportation benefit district right now. We can just table it till later.
Yeah, it's not even necessary to table it till later, because the Public Utility Committee report simply recommends that one be formed and put on a ballot at it doesn't identify a particular date. It's just adopting an ordinance to put a ballot measure before the voters, but that would happen at a different time.
Awesome, thanks.
Mr. McMillan?
Well, I'm going to vote to approve. I think we need the transportation benefit, but I don't want to put it on a ballot, and we will push this off till at least next year. So,
Yeah, that discussion can come up whenever the council raises it by motion. So, All right, that being said, unless there's other relevant discussion, I'd like to call for the vote on this motion.
Okay, McMillan,
To accept the committee report, yes.
Nelson,
Aye.
Patterson,
Aye.
Pavogel,
Yes.
Reed,
Aye.
Wilson,
Aye.
Carlstrom,
Aye.
Dick,
Aye.
Grun,
Aye.
Henshin.
Aye.
The motion passes. We're good.
That motion carried.
Yes.
The next committee report is by the Lodging Tax Committee. Is there a motion regarding the report? Mr. McMillan.
After she reads the report, I move that we accept the report as written.
Okay.
Okay, so. Oh, well, I have to read it first. He didn't, yeah. So the city advertised for applications for the LTAC funding for the calendar year 2020.
Corey, could I stop you for a second?
Yes.
I see Mr. George joined us. Could you let him in if you need to?
He is in, let's see. He's getting there. Jim, are you good? Can you activate your camera and your microphone? Can we just take the roll call for this and I'll pay attention when he pops up?
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay, so the committee reviewed the applications and recommends that the council approve the following. And I'm not going to read them individually. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So there's 9 total awards totaling $39,461. And this report was approved by the committee. So pretty much what they did is with the applications, they provided us what they would use the funds for. They have to spend them, and we make sure that their spending is allowable for LTAC, and then we provide reimbursement. And this report in detail was provided in your council packet that was emailed to you.
Could I suggest maybe we remove the City of Hoquiam Easter egg hunt, because I think we kind of missed that one.
Actually, I have a question on that.
Hold on. One at a time, please. We actually purchased the eggs, but they have a shelf life.
Okay.
So next year we will not purchase eggs.
They'll be extra yummy.
Yes.
All right. Sugar stands.
Some of the eggs are being distributed by the city of Aberdeen through the distribution with the meals that the schools are doing.
Okay. All right. Makes sense. I just noticed that was one of the, the Shorebirds Festival is for education and advertising is also on the list, and understanding it was canceled. So I'm just curious whether or not this should go back to the committee, or is there something that's coming up soon, just a thought.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sorry, Mr. Pavogel.
Yes. So my question is related to, we don't know which of these events are going to go forward and whatnot. Hopefully as many of these as possible will happen, but maybe none of them happen at this point that hasn't happened already. So my question relates to the ability to carry funds over to the next calendar year. Is that allowed, or does that just mean that we have a bigger pool available for next year?
So it means that we will have a bigger pool available for next year. The funds will roll over, as in the city still has the money, but they have to reapply.
For sure. Okay.
And is it possible to reschedule the time of year and like have another LTAC funding request this year?
Yeah, so, and even if we award these monies, if they don't spend them, they don't get it. So just, that's if that adds more clarification.
That does for me. Is there was a motion and a second, I hope, before we got into that discussion. Is there any other discussion? Okay, hearing none. I'll call for a vote on that.
Okay. McMillan,
Aye.
Nelson,
Aye.
Patterson,
Aye.
Vogel,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
Wilson,
Aye.
Carlstrom,
Aye.
Dick,
Aye.
Grun,
Aye.
Henson.
Aye.
And if you call for a vote from Jim George, I see that he's got his audio toggling on and off.
Jim, are you there?
Yeah, I am here, but the audio I'm getting is so bad I can't understand it about half of it, so I don't feel I should vote.
Okay.
Okay, we can kind of hear you too as well, Jim, so hopefully you can hang in with us.
I'm going to try calling in again on a different machine and see what happens.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Okay.
So motion carries.
Thank you. Okay, it's taking a while to get through these, but we're on to officers report. There's a biosolids project that if Brian could give us an update on that, I'd appreciate it.
Yes. My other computer just logged off. So we went out to bid on the biosolids removal project to remove the biosolids in the wastewater lagoon. Hold on 1 second here. We received 3 bids. And the low bidder was Synagro. I actually emailed the bids out to everyone this evening, so you would have them. Here we go. So the 3 bids were from Synagro, basically Cowlitz Clean Sweep, under the name of Industrial Dewatering Solutions, and then a company named Merrill Brothers. From the East Coast, actually. Synagro is the company that did the biosolids projects for us back in 2009. The bid includes removing 1,200 dry tons, which is a minimum that we think is in there. It could go a little bit higher, so we had them bid a per ton amount for anything above 1,200. The biosolids would be removed, dewatered, and hauled to a beneficial use facility, which is a farm in Rochester and in also Montesano area, owned by the Rux family farms. So the total price for the low bid was $815,995.65, and the engineer's estimate was $865,000. So the bid actually came in a little lower than the engineer's estimate, and this would be, like 8 years worth of accumulation in the True Lagoon, which is pretty much at capacity. So we need to get cleaned out again.
All right, are there any questions or comments for Mr. Shea? Mr. Hinchin?
I may have missed it, but how often do we get this done?
This is only the second time in our history. We
So,
did it the
when
first
was
time.
the last time?
Well, we did it in 2009. And at that time, we dredged the entire lagoon, but we built a small dike in the northwest corner of the lagoon. But now we're storing in a much smaller area, and we figured we'd have to clean it out every 5 to 7 years. So we got a full 7 years plus before we had to clean it out again.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir, Mr. Pavogel.
I move to adopt this report.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to adopt the report. Is there any further discussion?
Yeah, I got.
Mr. Wilson?
Yeah, didn't we have talks about this removal with Aberdeen, or was that with their removal and we were working with them? We were partnering with them on this at one point, weren't we?
We are currently still partnering with them on a study looking at consolidating our wastewater plants. It's gone very slow with the consultant that they hired to do that project, but we're still looking at consolidating our plants, or the potential for us even just to send our biosolids to Aberdeen on a regular basis. So we're looking at all the options in the study right now. Long term, we probably do not want to continue managing our biosolids the way we're doing it.
Okay, thank you.
Hi,
Mr.
this is
George,
Tim. Can you
looks
hear
like-
me?
Yeah, you sound great now, Jim.
Okay, I don't show my picture and I don't know how to turn it on.
Well, that's okay. We can hear you great.
Okay, I hear you fine.
You want me to turn mine off? I will. Thanks, Jim.
Okay.
Jim, you're joining us now, and I think you caught the last part of the officer's report. There's a motion and a second. We've had discussion regarding the bid award for the biosolids project. It's on the agenda as 4B, and at this time, I would, if there's no other discussion, I'd like to have Corey she's basically going through and doing roll call votes on everything so that we're not all talking at one time. So Corey, if call the vote for
Mr. Mayor,
yeah, sorry.
I believe Ms. Reed is signaling you.
Oh, hi. I see that. Thank you.
Is this in the budget right now?
Yes, we budgeted $1 million.
Okay, and when is this going to be done?
The biosolids have to be placed, I think it's either by the end of August or the end of September. So it'll start pretty much immediately and be done. This is essential work, so it's something that can go on even under the quarantine situation.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Is there any other discussion? Okay. Hearing none. And Jim, since I don't see your video, if you wish to be heard on something rather than raising your hand, just speak out and we'll try to take care of it. So now I would like to call for the vote from, if Corey, you could do a roll call vote.
Okay, McMillan,
Aye.
Nelson,
Aye.
Here I go.
Patterson,
Aye.
Vogel,
Yes.
Reed,
Aye.
Wilson,
Aye.
Carlstrom,
Aye.
Dick,
Aye.
George,
Aye.
Grun,
Aye.
Hinchin.
Aye.
Motion carries.
All right. Are there any other officers' reports? I know I did receive some information from, I believe it was the police department, and regarding some, I think it was some updates on sorry, Chief, I don't remember exactly what it was, but I know I received a report from you in the last few days. Could you maybe address that?
Sure. The council should have received, the mayor and the city administrator, copies of three of our management reports that are required by state accreditation. One is our annual review of use of force, and that's all for our department. That's anything beyond compliant handcuffing. And then there's also a report on pursuit reviews for 2019, and also a pursuit on bias-based policing. It's these three reports. The fourth report is a recap on internal affairs, and it really wasn't anything report that needed to be formal internal affairs last year. So those three reports have been scanned and forwarded to each of you via email.
Thank you for the reports. Do any of the council members have any questions about those reports, or the questions for the chief at this time? And we can come back to other questions that might come up under old or new businesses as we move on. Are there any other officers' reports that we were not able to get into the council packet, but were received by email? Okay, we'll move on to mayor's reports.
Did we vote? Did I miss that? Oh, no, we did. I'm sorry.
Yeah, we did.
Oh, it was such a long thing that sorry, I got confused there. Yeah, we did. Sorry. I remember
right.
now.
Thanks. Keeping us in line.
It's a different pace, so I'm a little thrown off.
Well, that being said, mayor's reports, hopefully I'm not too long-winded, but there a lot of things have happened since our last meeting. And as you know, it became necessary to declare an emergency in the city of Hoquiam. And I just want to say thank you, and I can't say it enough, to our department heads and employees and citizens for how they responded. But difficult decisions were made, and the information, just like everyone at home and just like all the council members, changes so quickly that oftentimes we would make a decision and then 2 hours later we would know something new that we had to address. And so it has been challenging, but we took measures to protect, our staff and the citizens of Hoquiam, kind of in accordance with the directives that we get from the governor or the president and various levels of health agencies and officials. And so sometimes that information is conflicting, and I just want you to know that we work very diligently and hard to make sure that we had the right information as we moved forward. And I appreciate the independent feedback and the support that I got from you as council members. I know at one time or another, you've either taken phone calls from me or you reached out to me. That means a lot, in particular when we're trying to make decisions, and it's you, the council, that are representing the people that elected you. And so I really appreciate that feedback, the dedication from everybody. It's been what made us get through what's been otherwise, it's challenging, but we're able to tolerate it because of everybody's participation. And so I just want to say I appreciate that. To date, we kept everyone employed. While some people were working from home, we recently made a change to the emergency declaration to allow people to return to work in situations where they were already able to work independently. For example, if I know today that order became effective that was issued last week, and that allowed some people to get back into individual vehicles that they're basically working independently in, and can practice social distancing as well as accomplish their work on the job rather than doing it from home. I think we're going to have a few requests for some accommodations to work from home, and we'll do our best to try and meet those. But I have to say, each of the department heads and employees have been pretty flexible and diligent in trying to make it work for everybody. It's going to cost us some money, so I know that makes everybody nervous, and no doubt that's going to happen. But we have found some success so far. So I hope we kind of continue to lead in that. We did make accommodations for people to pay their utilities and avoid disruption in service. For a lot of our citizens, that was one of their primary concerns when this first kind of started. And even today, we're still kind of trying to find the best way to provide the service, but not have our lobby open to the public and not have a bunch of workers coming in to work in a small space. And so, Corey and a number of our other employees have done really well to set that up. And, as frustrating as it might be for some, we had people reaching out, I think it was this weekend, to Corey and I, just kind of through the Facebook page and saying, hey, for some reason I'm not getting anybody, and can somebody get a hold of me? And Corey was right on top of it. And I know we had some really satisfied citizens in the public service that they're getting when it's pretty difficult to do. A couple of weeks ago, I encouraged kind of everybody in Hoquiam to put out what we ended up kind of calling a light of hope. And so I suggested that we put a fresh porch light or like a single strand of lights in the front porch to kind of leave on at night and indicate to your neighbors or passerbys that we're all in this together, and to kind of shine that light of hope. And it's been kind of nice. Immediately, like that night at 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, people started sending pictures of their light of hope, and I've seen some pretty cool ones where they said the word hope, or they had some sort of symbol that was significant in their home, and some pretty crafty, unique lights. And so that's been really neat. And I would encourage people to continue to do that. Last week, I asked the scouts who typically put the U.S. flags up in Hoquiam for holidays and such to see if there was a way for them to put the flags up, at least in some capacity, without calling in everybody, to some sort of meeting or failing to exercise social distancing. So luckily they have a family in the local scout troop that all handle kind of an area on Riverside. And so last Friday, for those of you who didn't notice, that family volunteered in the Hoquiam troop to put up and take down the flags on Riverside. And for a lot of people, that was something that gave them a little bit of pride and hope, and is a symbol of unity in Hoquiam. And it encouraged both individuals at home to put out their flags, but also some businesses put their flags out. And unfortunately, at the end of the day, those flags have to come down, but they have assured me that they will do that again. And it was really nice to see them up there. And it was just coincidentally one of those days where the breeze was just right to keep the flags out kind of on display for the whole day. So that was pretty neat. And I would encourage people to both continue to fly the flag and keep your light of hope shining bright until we get to the other side of like this flattened curve. And then we can resume some sense of daily activity that's maybe normal or closer to normal in Hoquiam. Kind of following along those lines, I want to thank Coach McMillan at the high school. Jeremy reached out to me and mentioned that there were a number of high schools in the state that were trying to honor some seniors. And so I just wanted to let you know that this Friday, April 17th at 8:20 p.m. So that if you look at your military clock is 2020, we're going to join high schools all over the state of Washington in honoring our seniors in the schools by turning on the stadium lights for a half an hour to honor this year's class of 2020. And I plan to personally turn the lights on, so we're not going to call any employees in, although I'm sure almost any of our employees would volunteer to come in and do that. The Hoquiam Historic Olympic Stadium lights are going to be shining bright this Friday night at 2020. And that's going to be the stadium's lights of hope in recognition of our senior class. I don't know if it's something that'll happen again, but we're definitely going to do that this Friday. And I hope that we're joining all high schools around the state. I know that Tumwater High School is kind of taking a lead, at least kind of in our area, and we're going to be joining that. So I'm pretty excited to do that. It seems like something that's kind of a minor gesture, but it means a lot to a lot of people that are looking for some comfort and support and missing out on opportunities that they're not going to have the same traditions that a lot of other people have had, but they're going to have something pretty unique for their own. So there was at some point some concern that a number of council people brought to my attention, as well as the public, regarding the 72-hour parking rule in Hoquiam. We got a few complaints, and Mr. Pavogel, council president, and I kind of discussed the issue with department heads and the police chief, and to kind of determine what kind of burden was being imposed on those people that stay at home and stay healthy. And we determined that since the governor's order to stay home, there had only been 3 citations at that point. And so while there may be some warnings and things that were out there, I personally discussed the citation with one of those 3 people, and they understood. Their vehicle was parked in the city right away, wasn't properly licensed. So council president, I know, contacted additional council members to kind of discuss whether or not the 72-hour parking rule should be suspended. And I haven't heard yet, but perhaps there will be a motion later. But I just didn't seem like the way that it was being represented online was necessarily of a major concern. And so I would ask, people to just continue to follow the rules. I mean, we ask our law enforcement to continue to enforce the rules unless there's some exception to that. And I certainly didn't personally feel it was an emergency for the mayor to address. And I would suggest we just leave this to be enforced in its ordinary fashion. And of course, citizens, if they disagree with the citation, they have a right to be heard on that issue at a later date. So I'll kind of move away from that. Hometown Sanitation has made accommodations to take their payments, and they recently contacted me and wanted to make sure that we were willing to postpone the spring cleanup in Hoquiam. That's at the request of the Mays transfer station. It's been really busy there during the stay home, stay healthy order, and they're not asking to cancel it, but just simply to consider it postponed at this time. And hopefully as we get a little bit closer to that original date that was in June, then we can identify either a different date or some other method to address that. In the meantime, today they installed an intercom at their office drive-through, and it's working. They're also working on some different methods of taking payments online, and really doing a good job to make sure that our city stays clean and they're hauling the garbage off. So I just want to,
Mr. Mayor, can
Hold
we
on,
close
can
the chat?
I wish if you would give me a second. I just closed the chat just because it started to get inappropriate. So
okay,
it is officially shut down.
Thank you.
all right. Moving on to beautification committee. The goal of the beautification committee was kind of recently restated for me, and I know that they have their plants and their season and their time to try and get things watered and planted and taken care of. And so because of social distancing and not wanting to get together and address those things, I received a letter that kind of restated their plan to stay safe and what measures they wanted to invoke. And I would, at this point, suggest that if they're going to be dealing with any of the plants, that they are required to follow the stay safe measures that they emailed. And I will just share a little bit of that with you. I considered doing it under communication, but there's an email that was sent that because of the present situation, we modified our plans to cover care of all the planters and gardens. Individual volunteers will work alone or in family groups with water and to tend to pots and gardens, and they will be bringing water from home in gallon containers. Will only be at each pot long enough to water and deadhead plants every 3 days. Each person is in charge of 2 or 3 pots, and in most cases, individuals will drive up to the pot, water it, and then move on to the next one. So this would limit any social exposure, and they have 35 dedicated volunteers who are willing to do this. The letter went on to mention protecting investments and contributions, and it was authored by Lynn Ogren, who's the co-chair of the beautification committee. So I don't know if we need a motion at a later date regarding that issue, but I think we should generally address it today. And along those lines, anytime that we are dealing with something like this, I just want to encourage the public that are logged in here or anyone else to, reach out to your city council members. All of you are available by phone and email, and everybody has access to that. And so to the public that's there, they should reach out and talk to your council people. And I want to thank the department heads, employees, and citizens for consideration and cooperation during the pandemic. Again, it's been difficult, challenging, and it's not perfect for everyone, I know. And I'll kind of end with that, although I will say that early on, I shared I guess you'd call it a poem that was given to me, and I would say it's just, if not more relevant today. So bear with me, but I'll read you a little poem. I know you'll love it, Shannon. When this is over, may we never again take for granted a handshake with a stranger, full shelves at the store, conversations with neighbors, a crowded theater, Friday night out, the taste of communion, a routine checkup, the school rush each morning, coffee with a friend, the stadium roaring, each deep breath, a boring Tuesday, or life itself. When this ends, may we find that we've become more like the people we wanted to be, we were called to be, we hoped to be, and may we stay that way, better for each other because of the worst. And I don't know how to say the author's names, but it is words of Laura Kelly Fatnushi. And the person that shared that with me followed with the reflection that this is our collective time of dormancy, so that we may blossom even brighter in the spring. I feel like those are like cool words to share and some thoughts to share. And here we are with some warm weather. People really want to blossom, and we kind of have to stay dormant for just a little bit longer. So I know that was super long from the mayor's reports, but it's been a long time since we've been able to talk all together, and I wanted to bring you up to speed. So I don't have anything further to report.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, Mr. Vogel.
Yeah, I just want to thank you and the staff and the many members of the council for all the work that everybody's been doing. Certainly the police department, fire, EMTs, we have a lot of great staff that are dealing with a health crisis along with an economic crisis and all of that. And it's been really good. Good response, good communication. When something came up, we, as far as a community concern, it was able to get addressed. I'm going to leave it at that. I don't want to dig in too much time-wise beyond that.
Okay, thanks. And I appreciate also, I'm not a blog person. I think it was a blog that you did, Stephen, but
it was a podcast. Yeah.
Oh, a podcast. Yeah. Not really a podcast person. I didn't really know what it was too much, but I joined Mr. Pavogel for a podcast of sorts, and I guess it's floating around out there. I don't follow podcasts all that much, but it might be neat in the future if occasionally council members would participate in Mr. Pavogel's podcast, and it's a good opportunity to kind of talk about some of the issues without having a full quorum and still be able to have an open discussion that's out there for the public. So
yeah, we actually had a second episode that's out there now with council member Patterson with also Allison and Annie. That was a great deal. So that's out
good.
There. That Hoquiam podcast. Actually, right now the Zoom feed is streaming to Facebook. I'm not going to put the audio out there, but so people can see this otherwise. And all of one person's watching it. So a lot of people watching on Zoom. One person's watching on Facebook. So that's all right.
Yeah.
Okay, how do you find the podcast?
You can just look for That Hoquiam Podcast on wherever you get your podcasts. Even smart speakers seem to be able to find it. So
the one we did was on video, so it wasn't just audio, so you can find it on YouTube.
First episode was just audio, but the second one is video, so you can look for it on YouTube, Facebook. If you want the audio, wherever you get a podcast, from Apple to Google to smart speakers to whatever.
Yeah, well, I think that's a pretty good way to reach out to the community, and I wanted to also just say that just kind of a warning, I guess, when you're out there, make sure that you're speaking for yourself, your own opinion, And
Absolutely.
but remember, at the same time, you're an elected official, and that was really hard for me, by the way. I'll just say, to be speaking on these different topics without, having a council meeting for everything to be approved. So I appreciate the feedback I get received from all of you. So thanks.
Yeah, that's good. Thank you.
Are there any council reports? Miss Carlstrom.
Yes, I've been in touch with the Hoquiam Business Association since the get-go. I appreciate all of the information that Brian has sent to them and that they've been able to post, and also with you too, Mayor Winkleman. And I talked to Jody today, and I wanted to have an update on what was going on with her. And she said, she responded that it seems that a lot of small businesses have not applied for the SBA programs from the government, and they may have missed out on the funds because they've already capped out, like in the Paycheck Protection Program. And then as a business owner, she has not heard back whether or not she's even qualified for the $10,000 SBA grant. So that was just the update that I got from her on what she's been seeing. They did email all of the businesses with the information that was given to her from Brian and from Ben. And so that's where we are right now. And we're just in a holding pattern like everybody else.
Thank you for your work with the Business Association. I know it's been particularly challenging for small business owners to try and figure out their ways to maneuver through this. And Greater Grays Harbor has been putting out a pretty good resource as well for the business owners. When employees have questions, it's a little bit harder to find answers. But if their employer can get up to speed, hopefully they can answer questions a little bit better for them. But appreciate your work there. I know there was a lot of email going back and forth between everybody about the new programs and how to handle them. So good job. Any other council reports, Mr. McMillan?
Just that the fire consolidation, we haven't met yet, and we probably won't meet until at least probably June at the earliest. But I just want to let everybody know that it's on the burner. It's just on a back burner right now, and it's not forgotten. And that Mr. Grunn, Mr. Dick, and myself, we are ready whenever they decide to start with that. So, and also with the, I got the same letter from Miss Ogren, and the blooming flowers, they just bring hope of better days to come and a promise that we will get through this. The colorful flowers bring with them a sense of normalcy that everyone craves at this time. And I'm very happy if we need to make a motion to let the people, there's 35 of them, water plants. I will make that motion, but I don't think we need to. I mean, they're doing a fine job by themselves. So.
Well, we can just communicate with them, if they're going to be on city property, we want them to practice the social distancing that they've figured out a way to do, and that seems to make sense.
Yeah.
Any other council reports? Boy, I am sure white with this white screen in front of me. Wow. Looks like my eyes are burning out or something. I just looked at my own video. It's about time to turn it off. No other council reports? Okay, that being said, we don't have any ordinance. There is a resolution regarding the comprehensive parks plan on the agenda. Is there a motion? Mr. McMillan?
Move for the adoption of this resolution.
Can I read it first?
Yes. After the reading, yes.
A resolution adopting the comprehensive parks plan for the city of Hoquiam.
Support.
Second.
The motion and support. Any discussion on the resolution? Okay, I don't see any indicators or requests for discussion. So I'll call for the vote. All those in favor, please respond to Corey's request.
McMillan,
Aye.
Nelson,
Aye.
Patterson,
Hi.
Savogel,
Yes.
Reed,
Aye.
Wilson,
Aye.
Carlstrom,
Aye.
Dick,
Aye.
George.
Yeah,
Okay.
he raised his hand.
Yep, I saw it. Thank you.
Okay.
Brun,
Yeah, this is Jim. Aye.
Tension.
Aye.
Thank you. Okay. Motion carries.
Great, thank you. I don't believe there's any other legal. Is there any unfinished or old business? There's one agenda item listed under old business. We could start with that.
Sure. So just a quick update on BHP. The most recent deadline prior to this meeting was at the end of March for BHP and the Quinault Indian Nation to submit any additional paperwork to the land use hearing examiner. That was scheduled to be voted on by the nation at their meeting at the end of March, which was canceled, along with their full assembly meeting, which now is scheduled for late May. So BHP and the Quinault Indian Nation asked for an extension until the end of June, and the hearing examiner granted that extension. So at this point, we're kind of in a holding pattern on the shoreline permit due to the virus situation. The company is continuing to work on their permitting with their federal permits that are necessary for the project for the in-work construction. So that's still progressing. They are working on the binding site plan, which is something that's necessary for the lease. And I have talked to representatives of the company, and the current crisis facing the world has not stopped the project. So everything is still moving forward, and hopefully we'll have more information in a couple months.
Thank you.
So if anybody has any questions, that's kind of the status on BHP.
Any questions?
This,
Yes, Ms. Carlstrom.
Brian, do you know what the holdup is with the nation and what's going on there and why they're keeping getting extensions?
Well, ultimately, I think the tribe felt that, in addition to the mitigation that's being done related to our permits, that there are impacts to their tribal treaty rights that are kind of outside, city regulations. And so BHP has been working with them on a plan to address those treaty right concerns they have kind of independently of our permit, but it's being done at the same time. And they want to submit something to the hearing examiner that shows that they're able to address those concerns, and therefore the tribe will not, contest or challenge the permit application.
Mr. McMillan?
Brian, on the sidewalk project, are they going to come back and do 22nd to 23rd now that they didn't have to do a lot, at least on the side they're doing now, down by YMCA, Crown, the roof doctor to the church, Casamia?
Yeah, they're when the project gets going again, they will be working on the north side of the street, the sections that are getting done. They were going to do everything on the south side of the street first, and then jump over to the north side. And as of right
yeah,
now,
I understand that. But what about 22nd to 23rd, which they didn't even do?
You're talking about the paving or the sidewalks?
Well, I'm talking about the sidewalks. They started on 23rd and one up all the way to pretty much down towards Rite Aid, but they didn't do 22nd to 23rd, the first block.
On the south side of the road?
Yes.
I'm thinking that if they didn't do it on the south side of the road on that block, that it wasn't included. I mean, areas that weren't in horrible condition were not included in the bids because we had more sidewalk than we had funds available. So on the north side
Well,
of
I understand that, but they didn't have to do a lot of sidewalk. You know, like I said, they didn't have to do the YMCA Crown Drug except for the entrance there. They didn't do from the roof doctor all the way to the corner by the church. They didn't do part of Casamia. So maybe that would make up that block, is what I'm asking.
If well, the project, it was more money. You know, we awarded extra funds. I mean, what you see being torn up on the south side is exactly the way it was in the bid specs. It wasn't, there was no changes to save any money.
Yeah, I knew they didn't have any changes yet, but I thought maybe they would change it because we didn't have to do this parts. So, but I mean, it could have been in their bid also. I'm over there and that's my area, so I just had to ask.
Yeah, so are you talking when you say 22nd to 23rd?
When you come off the bridge, it would have been the shirt shop.
Yeah, that's definitely going to get done. They had to do the curb there before they could actually do the sidewalk.
Okay, I haven't done anything yet, so.
They're gonna pour a curb there because we had to do a bunch of drainage improvements, and then they'll come out and actually remove that sidewalk.
Okay. Okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
that is all gonna be new, and the transit bus stop that was there is moving, maybe 30, 40 feet further to the east.
I think we're talking two different areas. You're a block ahead, but it's the block right beyond the Harborina. It's that first block.
The only
If
thing
you
that's
came
getting
off
done
the
in that
bridge
block,
and you look to the right.
okay, the only thing that's getting done in that block is just the corner in front of the old skate shop.
Okay. So, yeah, that's something we as a city need to look at later on.
Yeah, there's a lot of sections on the north side, kind of from maybe 27th to Myrtle, are not getting done because we didn't have the funds to do it. They're not in horrible condition, but it would have looked much better had we replaced those. So yes, we want to go after additional funds to get everything that wasn't completed. We actually applied to TIB last year to do those other blocks, but we were unsuccessful.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Anything else under unfinished business?
Yeah.
Dave Wilson.
Yeah, Brian, did you hear anything more about the candlesticks that were up on 16th and Riverside, and then they were taken down? Like,
yeah, I got verification that it was DOT that took them down. I don't, they didn't really give me an explanation as to why. I just know that there was their maintenance staff. They were sent out there to take them down for some reason. I'm still trying to get an answer. I'll call them again and try to track it down.
yeah, that just seems odd that they would put them up, and then take them down.
Yeah, I know. I think they heard from some truck drivers that they didn't like them, and they ran right out. Apparently they went right out there and took them down, but I'm not certain why. And they did not communicate with us formally that they were going to do that.
Well, then I think if we can't get the transportation to support that intersection, then we need to figure out a way to put a little curbside island out there in the center of that stinking intersection so people won't blow through there.
Yeah, I'll follow up with those guys again and let you know.
Okay, thank you.
Any other unfinished business, Ms. Carlstrom?
I was just wondering, we had mentioned at the last meeting that we brought in something from the Public Safety Committee about the beads. And I understand that we were going to have a public hearing and I didn't see anything about that, but I wanted to bring that up so that if we do have a public hearing in the future that incorporates more of our community, that it doesn't get lost in the shuffle.
Yes, we will advertise once the COVID-19 health pandemic is over. We will re-advertise for that because administration felt like that's a meeting that people would really want to come and speak to or for. And so we will hold that meeting at another time when people can be present and have their voices be heard.
If there's no other unfinished or old business, there's new business listed on the agenda with A relating to the May 25th council meeting. Is there a motion?
I move that we cancel the May 25th meeting because it's on Memorial Day.
Support.
All right, there's a motion in a couple of seconds. Any discussion on the motion? Okay, hearing none. If Corey will take a roll call vote, please.
Okay, McMillan,
Aye.
Nelson,
Aye.
Patterson,
Aye.
Vogel,
Yes.
Reed,
Aye.
Wilson,
Aye.
Carlstrom,
Aye.
Dick. Dick. Al,
He's on mute.
he's
Give a
jumping.
thumbs up or thumbs down.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. George,
Aye.
Grun,
Aye.
Hinchin.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Right, thank you. Other new business, there is under B, the Emerson Pump Station project. Brian, could you give us an update on that before let's have a motion, I guess, on new business.
I move that we have the mayor sign the document.
Okay, is there a second?
Support.
Motion and second. Is there discussion on the motion or questions for Brian?
Does this keep us stocked up?
Well, what this project would do is it's designed for construction of improvements to the Emerson pump station. That is a combination sewer and stormwater pump station. There's many things related to the sewer side that need to be replaced and updated. And also on the stormwater side, there are things that we will need to do to be in compliance with the West levy. We applied for funding from the Department of Ecology to pay for construction, and it looks like we are going to be awarded $500,000, half of it in a loan and half as a grant. That's supposed to be ratified in July, but we didn't rank high enough on the funding list that we should get funding. So this would get the design done so that when the funding becomes available, we'd be ready to go to construction.
Is this related to the North Shore Phase 2 or the whatever that part of the?
It definitely ties into the West Levee project for
Yes.
the stormwater side of it, but there are lots of issues in the sewer side of the pump station that I would say really aren't in compliance. There's a lot of safety related problems in that pump station. And if you remember, we had some property donated to us on Lincoln Street across the street from the pump station. And with the design, we anticipate putting some of the improvements on that new lot that are going to be tied into the pump station because there's just really not enough room on site. So getting that donation is going to work out perfect for us.
Any other discussion?
What?
All right. With that, if we could call for the vote, Corey?
Yeah, I'm clicking mute. Okay, McMillan,
Aye.
Nelson,
Aye.
Patterson,
Aye.
Reed,
Aye.
Wilson,
Aye.
Anderson. Oh, sorry. Why did I? Oh,
Carlstrom.
oh, nope. Oh, sorry. I'm on the second page because we're doing so many votes. Carlstrom,
Aye.
Dick,
Aye.
George,
Aye.
Grun,
Aye.
Hinchin.
Aye.
I will also vote yes.
Is that? Oh, sorry. That's who I skipped. I knew I was one off. Sorry, Pavogal.
That's all right.
I got it.
I understand. I know how it is now.
Motion carries. Is there any other new business, Mr. McMillan?
I move to excuse the absent council member.
They did not call in. She might have left a
Who
message.
knows with this thing?
Given the
God.
circumstances, I'm willing to still excuse her.
Okay. So is that a second, Mr. Bavolo?
Yes.
All right. Any other discussion? Okay. All those in favor? We're going to flip to the other side of the paper, Corey.
Let's see if I can do this. McMillan,
Aye.
Nelson,
Aye.
Patterson,
Aye.
Pavogal,
Aye.
Reed,
Aye.
Wilson,
No.
Carlstrom,
Aye.
Dick,
Aye.
George,
Aye.
Grun,
Aye.
Hinchin.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Great. Is there any other new business? Mr. Pavogel's got your hand raised.
Yeah, I have a couple of things. One is the sign on Lincoln Street. Speaking of Emerson Street Station, but not actually the station. The sign that's by there reminding folks that the beaches and parks are closed. Is that ours?
No, that's Department of Transportation.
Okay, it's still awesome regardless. And then, oh, I forgot the other thing. I'm sure somebody else has something. Will I remember it?
Oh. That's funny.
Mr. McMillan.
If no one else has anything else, I move to adjourn.
I think there are some other hands up. I didn't get a second on that. Mr. Pavogel, did you remember?
Yeah, so it actually has to do with public comment. Corey, do we have an email address that we can direct people to send public comment to?
You can send them to Tracy since she's the council secretary.
Okay, so can we have that public comment for the meetings for the duration while they are being held virtually be sent to that address?
I mean, that's fine.
And then we don't have to open up these chats and deal with all the situations that go with that.
That works.
So
Thank
so
you.
do you have a motion then, Mr.
Yeah,
Pavogel?
I move that we accept all public comment by email for the duration of our virtual meetings.
Is there a second? Looks like Ms. Carlstrom seconding that motion. Is there other discussion? Ms. Patterson.
So, so we are proposing that anybody that wants to participate in the public comment period at the beginning or end of our agenda would have that be read from an email previously sent to Tracy.
I think it would need to be sent to us, and then we would have options. We would have the ability to get that, and then we would have a recorded copy of what their comment was. Whether it be read aloud or not is maybe not as important.
So I think that is the motion. Is there other discussion?
I think anything we can do to help more communication is good.
Yeah, I think by encouraging people to submit it in writing, it is unless somebody's an expert at Zoom and knows how to otherwise communicate, that's been challenging. I mean, I tell people just to call my office at City Hall because, you know, we don't really have a perfect channel of getting answers for everybody right now. But, you know, I can see how we suddenly went up well over 100 participants there for a few minutes, and it was just random people in the chat room that, you know, created a problem. So we have to come up with a different method, and we can do that over time. And I know Zoom's working on better security as well. And so I like the motion because it encourages people to think about what their comments are and submit them ahead of time. And for a lot of us as council members, you know, then we can kind of see what they are and maybe anticipate motions or other council action along the way. I like the motion. Ms. Patterson, are you raising your hand again?
Yeah, I just would want to make sure that it's so tricky right now with Zoom. I just would want to make sure that the people that have those comments would definitely be able to feel heard. And I know that often when we have public comments, it ends up having a little bit of interaction with the council. Like we can ask them questions to clarify or answer some of their concerns. And so, yeah, it's been tricky with the chat, but and so I can see why we would want to avoid that. But man, I just hope there's a way that we can accept public comment in a way that helps them to feel listened to and validated.
Hopefully, yeah, and hopefully people that submit will submit a little bit early enough that it can just be included with correspondence. You know, then it can be in our council packet and we'll all have a copy of the email. It is challenging. Ms. Carlstrom?
So how would we get out the word to the public that this is an option that they can utilize?
We would advertise for it in the Daily World, or we could also post it on our Facebook page if we really wanted, and then we can also add it as a comment on our agenda when we post it on the website.
I think it's many ways that we can get it out there, I think is beneficial.
Right, are there any other comments on this motion? Discussion? Okay, Corey, could you call for a roll call?
One more time.
Okay. 2 more times. We still have to adjourn at some point.
Oh, yes.
Okay. McMillan.
No.
Nelson.
No.
Patterson.
Nope.
Pavogel.
Yes.
Reed.
Yes.
Wilson.
Aye.
Carlstrom.
Yes.
Dick.
Yes.
George.
Yes.
Grun.
Yes.
Henson.
No.
Majority of yeses, 7-4. Motion passes.
Okay, thank you. Let's do our best to communicate that with the public so that they can still participate. Unfortunately, I think we probably had a few people in the chat room that wanted to participate that couldn't today, and so that's what we want to avoid. Thank you, though. I think, you know, like everything else, we're getting through it. Is there any other new business, Ms. Reed?
I know the meeting has run really long, but I was wondering if we could get a brief overview from Chief Myers about how the police department is doing, how the jail is faring, and how the interaction with the public is going during the pandemic.
Yeah, great idea, Chief.
Here it is. Okay. So far, so good. We have had one officer tested early on and came back negative. So we've been watching staff carefully, obviously social distancing and using some of the other protocols that have been enacted for other folks to apply to first responders. So we're doing our best to take it as each day, one day at a time, keeping our staffing model. And I appreciate the mayor in his personal business has been working on getting cloth masks that we can wear more often in the public. I don't think anybody's a real big fan of it because it tends to make communication difficult, and sometimes it can kind of be intimidating. But we are providing that as well as regular PPEs for our officers inside the jail as well as those on patrol, so that they can take precautions if they're coming into a situation that potentially has exposure. Dispatch at 911 is doing pre-arrival protocol questionnaire to try to determine whether or not someone is potentially showing signs or symptoms that could be associated with the virus. So hopefully fire and EMS folks will know and police will know before they get there if they need to don their PPEs. The problem for us, of course, if it's crime in progress, getting that done and then having that PPE stay in place during the course of a physical contact with somebody is difficult. I would say overall our call volume is down quite a bit. Calls of just people are not traveling as much. People are not out and about like normal. A lot of folks are out of work, which is certainly problematic and certainly concerning for the long term as far as the health of the community. We are seeing some folks that tend to experience some mental health issues or I would say maybe destabilizing a little bit more because they don't have those social contacts and that their normal routines in the community that would normally help. So we're dealing with that more and more as it goes on. And then we've seen around the county some criminals taking opportunities to take advantage of the situation. And so we're working very hard to make sure that's very clear that won't be tolerated. The jail has been typically at half capacity population than our norm. Somehow over the weekend, we ended up with a lot more DOC probation violators. So our jails actually were back in the red today. So we're not sure how or what that the future will bring. I did get an email today from WASPIC that the Department of Corrections, in conjunction with the governor, will be early releasing 750 to 900 inmates. Have mixed feelings about that because obviously those are folks that are no longer in the prison population, which means then now they're in the community. And so I'm not sure how that necessarily alleviates the virus impact since now these folks, if they don't have a good place to go or a place to live or have the support to transition out of prison, could make the problem worse, not better. Other than that, like I said, the community has been great. We've people are aware of our mission and what we're doing, and I can't appreciate the council and can't say enough for the mayor and the city administrator and the rest of the department heads for making it work so well for what we're faced with.
Thanks for the update, Chief.
And I'd say,
Rich, you've been out of this world, but really quiet. Did you want to give us an update from your perspective in the department?
I'm just watching the show.
Was that you in the comments over there?
Yeah, no, that wasn't me. I can't type that fast. Fire department, we're probably running a third down in call volume than normal. Otherwise, it's kind of like Chief Meyer said, we're kind of doing our regular routine. We're using protective gear more than we ever did before. More awareness for it, but we're still down on supplies, so it's kind of limited to how much you can use, and we're slowly getting some supplies in, but not as many as you'd like, so you could just mask up for every call. But there's some leeway with how close you get and for how long a duration, so we got time to check it out. We get the same info from dispatch. They've been doing a really good job with giving us the heads up, and then give us a little time to get some PPE on if we need to, and for whatever the situation is. Otherwise, we're kind of status quo, waiting for the surge. Hopefully it won't hit, and we'll just work our way through it.
And we're making sure all of the fire and police are updated with the incident management team sit briefings that come out usually daily. So we have a real clear indication of what the incident management team is doing through the county health department, how that impacts the community directly. And we're making sure our folks get those facts and figures so they know exactly what's really going on, and we can base decisions on facts and not supposition. So we've been getting a lot of work done around the station. We did a lot of our record staff and stuff are working compressed work week schedules, so they don't have to come in quite as much. But basically, everybody at police and fire are still working their normal hours.
Thank you guys for being out there on the front lines. Any other new business? You want to renew that motion, Paul?
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Support.
There's a motion and support. All those in favor of adjourning, respond to Corey's request.
McMillan,
Alas, aye.
yay. Nelson,
Aye.
Patterson,
Aye.
Vogel,
Yes.
Reed,
Aye.
Wilson,
Aye.
Carlstrom,
Aye.
Dick,
Aye.
George,
Aye.
Grun,
Aye.
Hinton,
Aye.
and we're good.
Great. Thank you so much for struggling through that, you guys. You really appreciate all your work, and keep connected with your community. They need you.
All right. Thank you.
Just to let you know, I got a text from Denise that she can't make the meeting. So
Tell her how sorry I voted no then.
I'll see you a little later, Ben.
Okay.
All right.
Bye.
Thank you all. Good night.
Good to see everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Good night.
Night.
Good night.